Let's-
Jack Starr, welcome to 69 Face of Rock. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Mark. It's great to hear from you, and I'm looking forward to talking to your audience about the new album.
Yes, first of all, congratulations on your album. And my first question is, when you started to work on the music that ended up on this record, did you know it was going to be a sequel to your Out of Darkness album?
No, actually, that wasn't really planned that way. What happened is, as I started doing the recording, I realized that it had some things in common with the first Out of the Darkness. And then I thought to myself, why not a sequel? Batman has like five sequels.
That's
Star
right.
Wars has like 100 sequels, and so on and so forth. So why can't music have sequels? Why can't there be a Sergeant Pepper 2 or a Houses of the Holy 2? Why
Got it.
not?
So once you came to that realization, what kind of planning did you put in place to be able to pull this off successfully?
Well, it was really difficult because, the whole band did not live in America or even in Florida, where I'm from. So we did a lot of interaction over the internet. And the first major thing that happened towards realization was I met a local bass player. And I say local, even though he's actually from New York City and has had a lot of experience. His name is Gene Cooper, and he played in one of the premier New York City uh, hard rock and alternative rock bands. And in fact, they were called the Boyfriends. And one of their songs got covered by the Ramones. So that's kind of an interesting marriage because, I play heavy metal and Gene, the bass player that I started this adventure with, really comes from a slightly different background, but it worked together pretty well.
That's great. Um, who else do you have in your lineup for this record?
Well, on this record is, of course, the great vocalist Giles Lavery, who some of you may be familiar with because of his work with the band Alcatraz and also the band Warlord. Uh, I say Gene, Giles recommended a really great guitar player named Eric Juris, who also plays in Warlord. And I felt it was important to get another guitar player uh, just to really solidify what I was doing with these songs, as these are pretty complex songs. So Eric fit in perfectly. He's responsible for most of the harmony guitar stuff, a lot of rhythms, some solos as well. And he was just a perfect complement to my playing. And also, Giles recommended that we get a couple of guest stars. So we got Mark Zonder, a drummer, great drummer, who played on a bonus track called The Lesson, and also originally from Alcatraz, Jimmy Waldo on keyboards. And let me not forget to mention the person that did the drums on the majority of the album is Rhino. And some of you might know him from Man of War. And of course, he was really the perfect drummer for this. He's got this really heavy foot, kind of like John Bonham, and which is really what was needed for this album. So all the pieces were in place and off to the races.
Mhm. Um, as you mentioned, Giles Lavery is your vocalist on this record. How would you describe his contributions to the songs and the overall sound?
Well, he had a very strong contribution because of his ability to transcend heavy metal. The typical, and I don't want to be insulting, but a lot of metal singers think that it's enough to just have a high range. And okay, I have a high range, therefore I'm great, and everybody should worship me. It's not that easy. It's great to have high notes, and have a great range. But what's even more important is you have to have feeling and phrasing and some grit. And then one day, Giles told me that he was a big fan of Rhett Forrester, who was the first singer of Out of the Darkness. So it was like the circle was complete. I had in the year 2024 the successor to Rhett Forrester, someone that could sing with that kind of feeling, and yet someone that can also hit some pretty damn high notes.
Mhm.
So when I heard Giles, I said, that's it. We don't need to look any further. We've got the right guy. And that's pretty much what happens.
Once the album was done and you heard it for the first time,
Yeah.
mixed, what was your impression?
Oh, that's a good question. It's kind of like, giving birth to a child. Uh, so after the woman carries this baby for like 8 months, finally the baby emerges and you finally see the baby. So you have a lot of emotions. You have trepidation. Am I going to like this baby? You have admiration. This is amazing. I can't believe it. Uh, you know, Here I am. I'm now the father of a baby. And so when I first heard the album, I didn't know what I was going to think because I was so close to it. You know, in fact, the album was recorded for the most part right in this room that we call Small Earth Studios in Central Florida. So, like I was saying, so when I first heard the album, I was a little bit scared. Like, would I really like it as much as I hope I would like it? And the answer really is yes. I was really amazed by how good it sounded, and for me, it was a validation.
Mhm.
It was a validation of my life as a human being. Like, okay, the last 40 years, they didn't go by unnoticed. I honed my craft as a guitar player, as a songwriter, as someone who could be like a team leader, someone that could delegate a lot of what I was hoping to hear on the album, and someone who would be able to communicate. So it was a big validation for me.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
How would you say your approach to playing guitar has changed within the last 40 years?
Well, I was good back then. I mean, Kerrang! Magazine made me a guitar hero in 1984. They put me in the Guitar Hero feature. Uh, I was, I was also picked to be on the U.S. Metal compilation album from Guitar Player magazine that Mike Varney put together. So I don't know if my playing has really gotten better. I mean, I think in some ways I'm a little tighter than I used to be, and I know what I'm doing more than I used to. So I know more theory. Uh, I think, look, the bottom line, Mark, is that I play with a lot of passion and a lot of feeling, and that's always going to come out in my playing, and it will always appeal to people that like that. People that like Gary Moore, they're going to like what I'm doing. People that like Clapton, they're going to like what I'm doing. Uh, People that like Wolf Hoffman of Accept are going to like what I'm doing. Uh, People that play with feeling, there's a special place in the hearts of fans. And you have fans that will stick by you forever because you kindle something in their soul and in their hearts. And I don't want to sound pretentious, but I believe I do that. I believe that I'm able to connect with people on a high level.
And that's also the reason why you were able to last that long.
I think so. Yes. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah. Hand of Doom is the leading single. What makes this song stand out?
Well, first of all, like a lot of the great Jack Starr songs that I've written in the past, it really starts in with a killer riff. So in the first 3 seconds of the song, you know exactly where I'm going with it, and I've connected with the listener on a primal level. That's number one. Number two, we get to the big chorus where there's literally 8 guitars doing the da na 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 na. So I've got guitars in the low register, the mid register, and I even have 2 tracks of guitar doing it on the high E string all the way up on the 22nd fret of the guitar. All that gets blended in and it reinforces the chorus. But then we come to the solo section. The solo section is based on a classical music technique called the circle of fifths. Now, the circle of fifths was used in a lot of classical music, and I love it. I love playing guitar solos to that. So I think really it's got a lot going for it, you know.
Mhm. Hearing about how many guitars and different sounds you've used, tell me about the production process. How was it all mixed and combined so it sounds so audible?
Well, a lot of work really went into the production, and I have to really give credit first to the first engineer producer that put the initial tracks together, and that would be Gene Cooper. And then we handed the ball. In this case, it was master tapes, files, but we handed it off to someone that had a great, great studio in Germany, and we wanted to avail ourselves of that great, great studio. And he was able to take what we gave him and bump it up to the next level. And I'm referring to a gentleman named Thomas Merkler, who's actually, some of you might know him from his work as a guitar player with the late, great Paul Diano. So he did a lot of fine tuning on this album, and he really uh, brought it up to another level.
Mhm. One of my early favorites is Underneath the Velvet Sky. What can you tell me about that song?
I'm really happy that you mentioned that. It's the only ballad on the album. So if people don't like heavy metal ballads, they're only going to have to suffer for 4.5 minutes. But I'm glad that you like it because, and I want to say this, even though it is a heavy metal ballad, it is also dark. There's a dark side to Velvet Skies. And if I can just say real quickly, the song, even though it appears to be a love song, which maybe it is also a song about the end of the world because the chorus at the end of the song and during the song is underneath the velvet skies, there's nowhere, there's no place left to hide. Underneath the velvet skies, we all live and we all die. So, what am I talking about? Unfortunately, I'm talking about nuclear war and the end of the world because no place left to hide. Uh, in the event of a nuclear war, really, the skies will be contaminated and it'll be very hard to hide from it because we human beings need air and we need oxygen. So that's the story with that song. It's a love song, but it also has a dark side. And I'm glad that you liked it because so far out of, I don't know, maybe 25 reviews, we only had one negative review. And they mentioned that they didn't like Velvet Skies, but I think it was really because it was a ballad. And, some metalheads cannot tolerate a ballad, and
Well,
I'm glad that you can, Mark.
it's a song with that double-edged sword mentality, and that's what I like about it.
Yes,
Um,
thank you. You hit the nail on the head, and I'm going to quote you on that in the next interview.
Thank you.
That's a
My other favorite, Sahara Winds.
great song. I'm very proud of that one. You know, if if Rainbow and Led Zeppelin and maybe the House of Lords had a baby, they might come up with a song like Sahara Winds. It's epic metal. That's what it is. And it's epic metal that also creates a lot of imagery of the desert, creates imagery of fighting the elements and, going through a difficult period, a desert, like tribes wandering in the desert. It's a beautiful song, and I'm really glad that you liked it. There's a different epic changes in the song when it goes into the lead solo. It goes into a clean guitar thing that's almost like a Jimmy Page kind of thing, which all of a sudden you hear a clean guitar emerge, and then it gets back to the heavy stuff. So it's got a lot of light and dark. And let's face it, Giles, the vocalist, did an incredible job singing on that song. Uh, Rhino did, in my opinion, one of the best drum fills that he's ever done. And I'm talking about with Man of War, with Burning Star, with anybody. And it occurs right before the guitar solo.
Mhm.
And every time I hear this drum fill, I I play it back. I rewind it because I want to hear it again, and then I want to hear it louder and louder. And it really, if anyone had a doubt how good he is, I really suggest they listen to Sahara Winds and that they listen to that drum fill. It just comes in so powerful. The rest of the song is great too, but I'm just saying that it's
Mhm.
really great that he really nailed a really great drum fill. And then right after, I'm so proud of my guitar solo right there. So in that 1 minute in that song, we prove to the world and to anybody that listens to that album that we're on the level, not just with metal bands, but with bands like Led Zeppelin, like Rainbow. We're on that level. We don't do it on the whole album, but it's enough that we do it at least a couple of times
Mhm.
on the album.
That makes sense. What are your personal favorites from the new record?
Well, it's funny because you mentioned two of them already, and then the my other two favorites are really the greater good. Uh, it's got a great riff in the beginning, which actually was helped by the producer Thomas Merkler. He changed a couple of notes on the riff, replayed it, and it made sense because the my original riff was having a little bit of difficulty fitting in with the rhythm because it's kind of a weird rhythm and it's kind of a weird riff, Do 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 do. I think it's like a 7/8 time or something. But anyway, what I like about the song is the lyrics. The lyrics have a very direct message. The message is there is no greater good. When someone tells you, do something, even though you're not sure about it, maybe you don't like what I'm saying, but do it for the greater good. Go send your son off to a war in Siberia. Go take a shot that you don't even know anything about. Go march uh, for a cause that you don't even believe in just because it's fashionable, but because it's for the greater good. So basically, anyone that tells you do something for the greater good, you should ignore. As the great Ronald Reagan, who former president of the United States, said, anytime the government tells you we're here to help you, don't believe them.
Ah, yes. What touring plans do you have for this album?
Well, there's already people that are contacting us. Uh, as you can imagine, a lot of people want to see this album brought to life, and so do I. And in fact, so does Giles Lavery. Uh, he proved it to me last week. He had his art people uh, come up with a poster for the live shows. So, and there's going to as well be a little bio that's going to get sent to potential festival organizers and promoters. So we are going to play out, yes.
Fantastic. Hopefully a Chicago date is included.
Yes, I definitely want to come to Chicago. In fact, I don't know if you know this, Mark, but I played in Chicago with my band Burning Star in 1988. We played at the Metro,
Mhm.
which is a few blocks away from Wrigley Field.
Correct.
And we headlined, we were getting airplay on Z Rock.
Yes,
Uh,
I remember that.
and we were getting airplay actually in 16 different American cities. We were on our way to having a hit record. Uh, it did very well. It did very well, but unfortunately, the label that we were on at the time didn't really have the wherewithal to really, really push it and do what was necessary to make that a hit. But I just wanted to let you know we loved Chicago, and it was a big thrill getting off the airplane, listening to the radio in Chicago, and realizing, hey, that's not a cassette in our little ghetto blaster, our little boom box. That's the radio. And they were playing Jack Starr. So I'm forever grateful to Chicago.
Those were great times.
Yeah.
It's been what, 40, 41 years since the release of the original Out of Darkness record.
41 years. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Mark. I was
Um,
8 years old when it came out.
um, I was nine, right? uh, what do you think made that album so special back then?
I've asked myself this many times because it is the best-selling record that I've ever done. It's over 200,000 now. It's been reissued at least 6 times in Japan. It's been reissued in the Netherlands, in France, everywhere. But what really made that album great, The Out of the Darkness, is the songs. It had really great songs, songs like False Messiah, like Wild in the Streets, and it had great vocals. And Rhett Forrester did an incredible job. And that was really the challenge of Out of the Darkness Part Two. How the hell am I going to find a guy that can sing like Rhett Forrester? And I did. And it was worth the wait.
Uh, You just mentioned Rhett Forrester, which brings me to my next question. So he sang on the original record. Sadly, he's no longer with us.
Yeah.
What memories do you have of Rhett and his contributions to the record?
Well, I have to say, Rhett and myself, we were really different people, but we got along great. Rhett is like 6'3", and he's a tough guy. I'm like 5'6". I've really never been in bar fights. It's not in my personality. Uh, I'm more of a peacemaker, I'm not gonna like. But Rhett had a really strong personality. Rhett was a drinker. I think there's a song from Riot that Rhett sang called "Hard Loving Man." That kind of describes Rhett. Why did we like each other? I don't know, because we were totally different, you know. But Rhett saw something in me that he liked, and I saw something in Rhett that I liked. We actually ended up spending a whole summer together at my house in Huntington, and we were hanging out, and it was an amazing time in my life. I mean, there were girls knocking on our door like every day, every night. Rhett would wake up and he'd start drinking at like 12 o'clock. Uh, and you know what? He could hold his liquor. He could drink. He could drink a 24 pack in one day, and it wouldn't even really. You wouldn't even really notice it. I, on the other hand, 2 beers and I want to go to sleep. So you asked me how we are different. We were very different, but we liked each other.
I think you just defined the opposites attract concept.
Good point. Very good point.
Now, was Giles under any pressure to maintain the type of performance that Rhett delivered all those years back?
Well, I never gave Giles any pressure whatsoever. So if he was under any pressure, then it was self-generated pressure because I know that Giles really did like Rhett's voice a lot. But no, he really wasn't because, Giles is an alpha male. He knows what he wants to do. He knows how to go about doing it. I'm an alpha male, and I'm not going to try to boss him around. Gene Cooper is an alpha male. We're all a bunch of alpha males, and we all get along because we all respect each other's talents. And Rhino is an alpha male. Rhino is another guy who's like 6'3", and he's a tough guy, and no one's gonna, try to no one's gonna try to mess around with him, that's for sure.
Mhm. Um, did you experience any challenges during this entire process, writing, recording?
It was very, very difficult. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was, it was difficult. But there's a saying, which is no great art comes without great struggle.
Correct.
So the struggle was real. The struggle, first of all, came about because we recorded an album in 2024 without using a click track. I don't know if you're familiar with what I mean by that, but
Yes.
it's an electronic timekeeping uh, machine that locks you into the beat. We did it without a click track. It was insane that we did it like that, but we wanted to keep it fresh and to have it have the sound of the 1980s, but with better technology and cleaner production and bigger production. But we wanted the freshness of the 80s. So no click track, no samplers, no quantizers, none of that stuff. This this was really an anomaly, and I really want to say that again, anomaly in the world of metal in 2025 that it just came out. I guarantee you that this album, and I'm going to hold it up right now in case your viewers are not sure what it looks like. This is it right here, Out of the Darkness, Part 2, out now on Brave Words Records. So when I say an anomaly, I'm going to make a statement now, and I may be wrong because I'm going to guess. I don't believe that there are any other metal records that have come out in 2025 that were recorded without a click track. So already this makes this a very unique record, and it's a very difficult thing to do, but you need a really great drummer. You need a drummer like a John Bonham or a Rhino or a Mark Sonder. You need a drummer that has impeccable timing. So that's why this record doesn't sound sterile. A lot of metal records today, they sound too perfect. The drums are like machines. The guitar playing is like a machine. Everything is too sterile. Uh, I think if and and I know there are metalheads that like Led Zeppelin, that even like the Rolling Stones. That some of the songs by Led Zeppelin, they start off in one tempo, but they end up faster because they're not recorded to the click track. Same thing with the Rolling Stones. They start the song off, or Jimi Hendrix, perfect example. The songs speed up. Now, why should that bother someone if the song speeds up a little bit? For me, it shows that the musicians that were playing got into it. They got passionate. They got excited. The juices were flowing. The blood was pumping, and they find themselves going a little bit faster and a little bit harder. And that, Mark, is really the story with this album.
Beautiful.
It's
That's magic right there.
Thank
Um,
you.
Personally, what did you get out of doing a project like that?
Well, it's a lot of satisfaction, because it's been my life's work. Uh, Making music, putting out albums, touring, playing festivals, all that stuff. This is what I've done. And for me to still be able to deliver the goods, it's kind of like a boxer, getting into the ring again, and still being able to fight, or a anything, whatever the field of endeavor that we're talking about. It's a great feeling when you can still do it. And also, really, what really mattered also is that this label from Canada, associated with Brave Words magazine, a magazine that I used to read, signed me. They took a chance. They said, this guy's got something to say. Maybe he's older than a lot of the other acts that we sign, but the guys in Priest are older than he is, and they still have things to say. Except he's the same age as those guys. Kiss, whatever. Uh, Iron Maiden, So, but how many people my age get signed anymore? Not many. So there's a lot of things to this album that really are different than your average metal album. And really, a toast. I'm drinking water, but a toast to the guys, Tim Henderson, a toast to all of them, Mike Brandvalk, the publicist that works with Brave Words, and of course, Giles Lavery, who besides wearing the hat of a great singer, also works on a day-to-day level with the label. So I want to really thank them for having the faith in me to sign me, and realizing that a person can get older, but it doesn't mean that they're out of the game.
Beautiful. Finally, what's
Yes.
next on your musical journey?
Oh, I didn't get the whole question.
What's next on your musical journey?
Oh, that's a really good question. And I haven't really thought about it, but probably there will be a part three, though we may not call it a part three, but we don't know yet. And also, really, what's next is playing out. That's the main thing that I'm looking forward to doing. Uh, there's so much music out there that even if I didn't write any more music for the next 40 years, there's plenty there. But for me, part of the joy of this whole thing is creating. And so of course there will be another album. And I think that it's going to be predicated on how well this does, and because I don't want anyone signing me unless they totally believe in it. And that's what the case was with Brave Words. And right now, the initial response, and we're only, I think, 2 weeks into it, maybe not even 2 weeks, but the initial response, Mark, has been very, very good. With the reviews, they've all been really strong and enthusiastic. So I think we're on the right road here.
Absolutely. Jack, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about the new album, and good luck with the new record and the touring.
Thank you so much, Mark. It was my pleasure. And I just want to say hi to all your listeners and say that I look forward to seeing you guys on tour.